There is a lot that goes into serving the citizens of Daytona Beach. Staff members strive to deliver an experience that is worthy of being called world famous. Some work happens in the communities where we live, while a lot happens by
We will call to order the April 11, 2023 board meeting for the Midtown Redevelopment Board. We will have a roll call.
Sean Collins.
Present.
Tangela Hardy.
Present.
Joan Shepherd.
Present.
Renee Richardson.
Present.
Kathy Washington. Nathan McGullough.
I'm present.
Davita Bonner.
Present.
Lynn Thompson.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We will have an invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody say it, please.
Let us pray, shall we? Good and gracious God, we come before your presence at this moment, at this hour. God, we thank you for life, health, and strength. We thank you, dear God, for your hand of protection. How you watch over us, dear God, throughout the time since the last time we gathered in this place. God, we thank you for this board, and we thank you, dear God, for her commitment to making our community, our city, a better place. God, tonight we thank you for the leadership of our city. Thank you, God, for our mayor, our commissioners. We thank you, dear God, for those who sacrifice so much for our city. Tonight we thank you for our chair. Oh God, lead him and guide him, dear God, as we transact the business of our board. Tonight, God, we remember those who are dealing with the loss of their loved ones through mass shootings, senseless gun shootings. God, we pray that you indeed bring healing to this nation. Oh God, lead us in everything that we do. Bless our national leaders. Bless our world today. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to we'll have approval of the minutes from March 14, 2023. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
A second.
Any unreadiness, any questions, any corrections, additions? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We will have staff reports beginning with Captain Conte for the police department.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I will be providing you the most recent CompStat report from date ending March 25th, 2023. Beginning at the top, our homicide rate has increased 50%. We've had 3 homicides from January 1st until March 25th. Our auto thefts continue to be a challenge for us. It's increased 110%. Since January 1st until March 25th,
Wow.
we've had 84 total auto thefts.
Jesus.
Continues to be a significant issue. On the bright side, we've had a decrease in burglaries of 40%. We've had a decrease in overall larcenies of 9%. Our robberies have gone up 25% from 8 compared to last year to 10 currently. We've had an increase of aggravated assaults of 1%, going up a single digit to 78 for this time frame. Our sexual offenses have decreased 33%, and our overall Part 1 crimes have increased 1%. But one thing I do want to make note of is our calls for service have increased 14%. So with the exponential growth that the city has experienced in the past 2 to 3 years, our calls for service have increased drastically. And from January 1st until March 25th, we've handled over 16,781 calls for service. That's on the District 1 side. Now, I'm not sure if all of you have received it as well, but although we do have some numbers that we did have an increase on, if you go to the following page, you can actually see that the vast majority of our crime statistics are actually declining. So this is just the final tally, but the vast majority of our crime reports over the previous CompStat periods from the second until this most recent one, all of our numbers are decreasing drastically. So that is the positive note.
That on the third page? Where
Yes.
It says LY means CompStat last year, LY?
I'm not sure which page you have in front of you, but LY should be last year.
Okay.
Typically, it'll say year to date, and it'll be the year that it was completed. So we have a comparison of 2021 and 2022. But at least for the one that I have, it's broken up into different ComStat periods from January 15th to the 28th, then ComStat 3 from January 29th to February 11th, so on and so forth in 2-week increments. As long as I have the opportunity to speak, as far as the auto thefts go, I've said it at every single community meeting I've been fortunate enough to attend to, and I think I've also said it here as well. It is unfortunately a nationwide trend. And for those that do own late model Kias and Hyundais, please contact your dealers so that the dealership can install their security upgrade. It's supposed to help prevent the issue of being able to just quite easily steal these cars. And another thing I did want to stress, I review during any time frame, well over 100 reports, and the vast majority of these car breaks or these vehicle larcenies, as well as the auto thefts, a lot of it comes down to a failure to report. So I'm asking everyone, please use your voices. Let's be good neighbors to one another. A lot of times our officers will respond to a call, and while they're conducting their investigation, a neighbor will come out and say, oh, you know what? I actually saw somebody pulling on door handles around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, I understand, a lot of people have the mindset, not my business, not my problem, but it is only a matter of time before they do become a victim of crime. Now, I'm not asking anyone to confront anyone. That's obviously not the request here, because there's always an obvious safety issue. But if you do see something, please call us. It's the best, and it gives us the best opportunity at least to catch someone in the act, if not prevent it.
I've got some questions, but I will.
Is there an increase on the theft from the car lots?
There have been, specifically 451 North Nova Road. We've actually had 4 auto thefts directly from the Kia dealership. Now, those are, it's an odd combination of sometimes the vehicles actually being left unlocked at the dealership and also being a lack of security systems there. So that's one of the things that we're addressing with the dealership now. But other than that, there's been no significant increase in any other of the auto dealerships or anything like that.
Sorry.
I know Governor DeSantis just signed a legislation allowing folks to carry without going through training or having a permit starting in July. Is there any changes within your department as to how you would handle the increase of citizens or, having weapons without training?
Although I don't want to speak for the entirety of the police department, other than officer safety and officers being more aware, it really wouldn't change how we operate. The vast majority of the contact that we have with someone we come in contact with, unfortunately, we do operate under the assumption that there is some ill intent there until we're able to dispel otherwise. My biggest concern with the passing of the law is a lack of education and preparedness on those that now choose to carry and choose to own. So I know I've said it a couple other times. For those that do choose to exercise that Second Amendment right and they choose to now possess these firearms, please do so responsibly. Take all the necessary safety classes for their own benefit. Those that have children at home, please make sure that it's securely locked and encased. And if you do choose to drive with it, make sure that when you leave your vehicle to secure that weapon, don't leave it inside the car. I can tell you in the past 2 to 3 months, we've had a significant number of firearms being stolen because of people who leave it inside of their cars. So that is my biggest concern. Now, as far as legality-wise, it really shouldn't change anything for us. We've made the request to get some additional training for some of the newer officers that don't necessarily have that experience. But as far as our operations go, no.
One more question. So I know there's going to be a lot of people run out and buy these weapons and think it's okay to carry in certain places, like, for instance, schools and government buildings and things like that, where it's illegal to have these weapons. Is there anything the city of Daytona Beach Police could do to, I guess, make people aware of the places they can and cannot carry these weapons?
I'm going to take credit for that for that great idea. I think that's a phenomenal idea for us to educate those that are now going to choose to possess those firearms. It would not hurt to at least put something out on social media and educate those that are out there, because there are restrictions on where you can carry the firearm. School grounds, government facilities, hospitals, and that sort of thing. So it would just depend on what the specific institution or building is. But the Florida State statute does specify what areas you are not allowed to carry. But I'm actually going to take credit for that great idea. Ms. Hardy, I'll give you a shout out at the bottom of the social media.
Right.
I have a question. How do you think that this is going to impact Oktoberfest from, I don't quite understand the mechanics of his signing of the bill. I haven't had a chance to read the whole thing. But are out-of-towners going to be allowed to carry firearms like this, like during Oktoberfest or something, one of our events?
So currently, the state of Florida has what they call reciprocity with other states. It would depend on that state if they have reciprocity, meaning if I travel from Florida to another state, will that state already have an agreement in place and recognize my concealed carry or something like that? So that's what it would come down to. I don't necessarily know for a fact how that's going to change things, because I haven't read it as thoroughly as I'd like.
Right.
But obviously, we'll seek our city attorney or legal attorneys to give us a little bit more information on that. But it would be interesting.
Yeah,
It
that's
is
a concern
of concern.
of mine.
Any other questions? I had a couple. The auto theft, are they taking those cars for parts or joyriding? What are they doing with
The vast majority are joyrides.
joyride?
The vast majority are being used to either drive around recklessly, or they will use those vehicles to go out and commit other car breaks or actually locate other stolen vehicles. We've actually had a few where on video you can actually see them pull up in a stolen car and then grab another car, and then you can see, the group taking off. Now, take this into consideration. Some of the auto thefts are also golf carts and motorcycles. So it honestly does depend if it was gas-powered or electric golf cart. And then obviously typically around, bike week, we do see, unfortunately, an increase in motorcycle thefts.
I saw that 367% increase in persons shot. Is that our district for right? Am I right? District 1 is us?
District 1 is us.
Yeah, so that, yeah. What's the typical, is that arguments or what's going on with that?
I don't want to give you a bad information. I'd want to give you a bad information on that. I have to do a little bit more research. I can tell you that a lot of times the call will come out as something, and then the investigation will lead us somewhere else. But I will get the specific information for this reporting period, and I'll contact you and I'll provide you that information. I'd rather not,
Right.
give you bad information.
And the domestic violence cases, it's almost stayed the same, but do you know whether or not there's a lot of repeat customers?
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, we do respond to typically there's a certain rhythm to it, unfortunately, and we do respond to the same addresses over and over again, or actually if someone will move from one location to another, when we do a query of officers responding, typically we'll ask over the radio, do we have any priors involving the party or at the address? And the vast majority of times, we've actually had other calls for service there, be it a disturbance, sometimes leading to an arrest, or sometimes actually prior arrests.
And the reason I ask that question because that particular crime, I think, is the one that's more in line with the Democratic side when they're talking about defunding the police, using funds for, using, and not taking the money out of the police department, but maybe adding additional professionals that can tell the domestic violence victim what their choices are beyond just staying in their current place. Because I'm assuming this is the husband beating up the wife and they're staying under the same roof. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, what kind of follow-up do y'all do? Is it just, you file the report, you send it to the state attorney, and that's it, or what happens?
The universal police answer, it depends. If we're fortunate enough to catch the person on scene, then we do make the arrest. Typically, what the process is, if we respond to the scene, we collect all the necessary information. Unfortunately, a lot of times you will have victims of domestic violence who on scene will tell the officer that they do not wish to prosecute. So despite us making our best efforts and actually arresting this person to break that immediate cycle of violence, when it comes time for prosecution, if you have a victim who is not willing to prosecute, then the case will be closed because there's not a cooperating victim, unfortunately. Now, we do have 2 victim advocates, depending on the scenario. The victim advocates will become involved in the process, and they will provide them, information. I can tell you that we do have resources available to them. Okay. Some of them involve shelters, some of them involve additional programs. Now, every single time that we do respond to a domestic violence call of any kind, be it an arrest or an actual crime or just a disturbance, as we define them, we always offer them what's called the domestic violence pamphlet or packet. And what it constitutes is VINE information. VINE is victim information notification and networking. So we give them some information on that. We also provide them a small pamphlet in English or Spanish of victims of sexual offenses. We do give them as much information as we possibly can. Unfortunately, some don't make the choice, the personal choice to actually seek those resources.
Yeah. And finally, piggybacking on what Ms. Hardy was talking about with the new law that your governor signed into law, the lack of a permit necessary. What?
I caught it.
Do I bite my tongue? Okay. What safeguards do y'all have for government meetings like this? Because there's no metal detector to come here, and God forbid the city commission is having a meeting and they're discussing something, and maybe something that happened at the last meeting or somebody got teed off with them, and we have nothing. We could probably make for that door there, but it'd be 6 of us trying to get over at the same time. I mean, on a serious tip, what kind of situation? Because people are really, they're losing their mind.
Unfortunately, yes. What the Daytona Beach Police Department has is we have Sergeant Blowers over to your right.
That's the first time he set up here. I like that.
So
I like that placement.
we will have typically it's the code liaison, the code compliance liaison from the police department attend all the city meetings. So he's going to be here. If for some reason him or the prior officer Lamp was unable to attend, what we would do is hire someone to come and attend these meetings. Now, is it foolproof? Is it 100%? No, nothing is. But it is the better option as opposed to nothing.
And if folk know that, what's his name again? What's
Sergeant Blowers.
If they know that Sergeant Blowers is there, they'll probably think twice. Yeah. And that's all I want them to do, think twice. Because without him being there, they don't have to think twice. They say, we're sitting ducks. I can just pick them off. Like the guy did in the bank in Tennessee. And then I heard, when that was going on recently, there was another kind of meeting going on.
Louisville was the bank.
That's what
Louisville was the bank.
Louisville was the bank.
Yeah, before that
Tennessee was the school.
Tennessee was the
Yeah.
kids.
But wasn't there another one?
There was a mall shooting.
Yeah.
It was
Mall somewhere.
what was it?
It was a mall shooting.
That's what it was, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
It's just. But anyway, that's my question. I appreciate it.
I had one more follow-up, and piggybacking off what the chairman has said, does your department have any resources to do a follow-up for domestic abuse? Do they have somebody that can go back in once a report is filed, that somebody can go back and check on the situation?
Once the police department has completed their investigation, if the victim advocates have been advised, they'll embed themselves in the process. However, once the case is turned over to the state attorney's office, the state attorney's office also has their own victim advocates that assist the victim. And if they are seeking prosecution, that does open a lot more options for them.
That's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good report. We will have code compliance. Ms. Kirk, how you doing?
Hi, good evening. I wanted to say thank you for bringing that up about the safety in here, because I also have concerns during the code board meetings, because we stand up here and my back's, to everybody. So I appreciate you bringing that up. But my name's Sarah Kirk. I'm a code compliance inspector with the city. For the month of March, we opened 20 cases in Midtown. 4 were open and closed within the month, so that most likely they were unfounded complaints. The majority were vacant lot and then residential and then commercial property as well. One special event was most likely, since it was March, it was a bike week complaint that was put in. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Anything I can help with?
I do.
Okay.
Unfortunately, my next door neighbor is on this report.
Oh, okay.
And I would like to know what I can do to either assist him or his property. I live on Fulton Street.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can find it. So the inspector for that area is Danny Garcia. And it looks like it is, it may be a tenant complaint, it appears.
Now look at, thank you.
Is it a, okay, I don't want to say too much.
That's quite all right.
But it looks like it may be a tenant complaint because it looks like interior violations.
The gentleman has put up sheets in between his home and additional outbuilding that he has, and he has tenants living back there that pay him.
Okay.
And I think that's what's fostering the issues that are reported.
Okay. Well, I could give you Danny Garcia's phone number, and then you can discuss it with him. Since it is his case, I don't know too much about it, but he would, I'm sure, be more than happy to assist you with that.
I would appreciate anything I can do to help alleviate the situation. I know that the owner's been working close with the city to try to take care of roof leaks and things like that in his property, so he is making an effort.
Okay. Well, before I leave, I'll write down his number and give it to you. Thank you. You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a question.
Ms. Richardson?
The property, 935 South Martin Luther King.
Okay. Go to that one. Okay. Yeah, well, I see. I see one thing that kind of is a trigger for me, just because there's other properties in the area that's similar.
This landlord group, it's a group.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to, no
I
other words. They are slumlords.
have.
And I live next door.
Oh, do you?
And
Okay.
It is a mess. It is a constant mess.
Yep.
And it has been since they purchased the property, and they own a couple of other pieces of property in and around that area. And it's a shame, the amount of money that they request people to do or to be able to rent that property. It's not even livable.
It's a very, very sad situation.
It is.
I've experienced it multiple times, and
Is.
different
people
cases.
have to pay $3,000 to $4,000 to move in there, and it's not even livable. They won't even give them the code to the door.
Yep.
They have to send the money through, and they usually do sight unseen. I have personally, along with my other neighbors, have personally seen them constantly. It's a rotating door. The one person puts the people in, 3 or 4 months later, it's a sheriff making the people leave and putting the people's stuff on the side of the road. And we call and we complain, and there's nothing that.
I did Google, just because I was curious, because it's just, to me, it's obscene what I see. And it's usually women with children that are going through it.
It is.
And they tell me it's the same story every time, that they saw pictures online They paid, they didn't get to go inside,
Yeah.
and then it's completely nothing like the pictures.
It is.
And then there's like no stove.
It's not.
Or if
they
you
took
want a
the stove
stove,
out.
right?
They
It's
took the
$30
cabinets
extra
out.
a month. You know,
And
it's-
they charging them to use the appliances.
Yeah.
Whatever the appliances in. It's a money. It's a cash cow.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cash cow. And every time that somebody comes there to see it, they can't get in because they can't have the code until they pay the money. So they're looking through the windows, and I feel so bad because
do too.
I tell them straight, don't give your money to that, because once you get in, you're stuck because you've given them $3,000 or $4,000, and these are the people that are desperate for housing.
Yep, that's right.
And they have little kids
Mm-hmm.
in the cars coming to see the place because they won't open the door until you deposit the money into an account, and then they'll give you the code to the door. But people are starting to come and look at the place. It's nothing in it. The roof is falling in. It's rats, everything over there. It's bad. And they just keep renting that place. People keep coming. They coming in the droves. But I just try to tell them, you have to find something different, because that is a slumlord. And it should be against the law what they're doing.
Well, I know that there is like a 9, I don't know if it's Channel 9 News, but one of the news, if you Google it, they're investigating, like Channel 9 Investigates or whatever, there is an investigation. I read an article at least.
Yeah.
And I know they recently, I have a case, it's on Cedar Street. Right now, it's a young lady with 4 little girls, and she's in the situation right now, and I have a code case on it. And it's, it's sad because she gave so much money and it's unlivable conditions. So, and I've had cases like this before with the same group.
Yeah.
They're under a different LLC now,
They're not
and
even in Volusia County.
but I agree. I think, I can only do my part, take them to the code board, a fine. But, unfortunately for the people that are losing their money.
Yeah.
But I think that, maybe bringing it to the, Channel 9 or, WESH, whatever.
They put these, it was a lady that had her children at Christmas time. They put those children and the mom out. The mom was working and the children were somewhere else. They took all of this stuff, put it on the side of the road. The neighbors in my neighborhood, we got the kids' stuff and set them on different people's stuff till the lady could come from work to get it.
That's
It's
sad.
sad.
Yeah.
I don't understand how they're able to do it, but it's one of them is a brother, and the other one is an attorney, and the other one is the one who gets the money. They get the money, sight unseen. People come from out of state, and it's a picture that's totally different than when they get here. They've already paid the money, so they're stuck.
And you know what I learned? It's not just Daytona. This is what I read out of that news article. It's like Central Florida. It might even be over into like St. Pete, Tampa area as well.
Well, this group is really bad, and they have a lot of homes in the 32114 area on Martin Luther King, on Vernon Street, on School Street,
Maple.
on Fremont, all of those areas in our neighborhood. They have these slumlords who will not come and fix anything. The last group left in the middle of the night. It was, they were gone 3 weeks and nobody came and picked up anything. They left all of the trash, all of the stuff out there. I called code enforcement. And when I called, 2 days later, they came and stuffed the roof back up under the thing, and they cleared out the driveway. They went in with hazard suits on.
Let me ask the soon-to-be city attorney to chime in on this one. What's our?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. Frankly, the Residential Landlord-Tenant Act does require a landlord to provide, basic services. I don't know if that extends to a stove, but the problem with that is that that's a civil transaction under that act between the landlord and tenant. There are attorney's fees available for tenants who sue landlords for violations of those acts, and I don't know if that makes it more likely that for people who normally can't afford attorneys, if there are attorneys out there because there's attorney's fees available, or whether the
Tenant.
The legal aid might represent people in that situation. The other thing is, if some of what you're saying is true, then
It is.
I mean, I'm not
No, I'm just
suggesting,
saying,
yeah.
because I've seen them,
Yeah.
when they want people to leave, they take what are those things, the things that turn the light on? The
Fuse box?
The breaker
They,
box.
they take the
Yeah,
things out. They take them out.
meter, the meter.
Yeah,
They literally take them out and take them with them so the people can't turn the lights back on.
I don't know what the likelihood is that if a bunch of their tenants complain to the police department, there'd be a fraud investigation. I don't know how hard that is or easy that is to prosecute, but I really don't want to
Yeah.
analyze whether that behavior is criminal, but based on what you're saying, there's an argument it is. I don't know how likely it is, quite honestly, that it
that
would
was-
be investigated.
That was
But
gonna be one of the things that I spoke about today because I pulled it up, the complaints on this site. It's amazing how many homes they have.
Yep.
And it's amazing how many complaints. And they're all the same. It's unfit and unlivable. These situations are unfit and unlivable for children and unfit and unlivable for other human beings. And they're treating these properties in places like this and stuff. And they have quite a bit of complaints, constant complaints.
and I need to do some more research
Yeah.
after the meeting and maybe get with Ms.
Right.
Richardson to get more information.
Yeah, I'm thinking of, again, just thinking out loud, thinking of maybe having you reach out to the state attorney's office, see if they can have somebody come in and brief us on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'll get with Ms.
Okay.
Richardson after the meeting. Mr.
Yeah,
I
because
just want to say, Renee,
that sounds like an absolutely organized crime to me.
yeah, well, that's stealing of a meter box, that's FPL
And
property
it's,
right
and
there.
it's clients that they know will not make much of a
Yeah.
fuss. They don't have time. They're too busy going to work the next
People that-
morning.
The people that rent
Yeah.
from them are already, the credit is not good.
Right.
And they don't have the capability
The
of getting
resources.
the resources to be able to get into a place that's affordable. So they take this because they don't have anything else. They're literally on the streets of coming from out of state. But the picture online to the picture of what it is
Right.
totally different. And when they get here, it's sight unseen. They've already given the money. They will not give the money back, and you're stuck. And it's unlivable. When one of the people came last week to look at the place, the man looked. He said the floor is just a mess. It's all gone.
Right.
And I know the roof is falling in, the floor is not. It's no appliances. They took all of the appliances out, and they charge them to use when they do rent. They charge them to use the appliances. It's ridiculous. You can look
I've
at
never
the-
seen anything like it, to be
I'm
honest with you.
telling
And
you.
it's the same every
It is.
time. It's the same
It
thing.
is, and I don't understand why something can't be done about it. But it is the next door to me. It is, and I wish that it's a cash cow, and
Yeah.
that's why they won't sell it. It's a cash cow.
That one is Officer Clegg's case, because my zone ends at Bellevue. So, but I'll make sure to
Yes.
mention something to him so he can. I'll let him know what we
Yes,
discussed
please,
today.
'cause
Okay, I
he
will.
stand in my backyard, and the yard is
Excuse me, that was
Okay.
935 MLB.
935.
That one's 935.
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
When I first moved into the city of Daytona Beach 5 years ago, and considering the property next to me, because I had noticed rats and the infestation and because of the living conditions, I did call your organization,
Okay.
your office, and they came out, did an inspection, and I did my follow-up. And they told me that there's nothing they can do. They can request that he come in front and answer these charges, but they had absolutely no teeth, is what I was told.
About
Who's
what?
this now? Who was it?
Right below the one we're discussing, look on Fulton Street.
Oh, I'm saying, who did you contact?
Oh, I contacted the
Code enforcement.
code enforcement, yes, because that's what a police officer advised me to do, was to call code enforcement. And I was told by the code enforcement officer that he's got many violations and that all they can do is send out notification for him to come and appear, but there was no teeth behind it.
Right. I mean, we can't physically, force them to do it or go on
But in
the
this
property.
case, there should
they
be
can get
something.
a fine.
Yeah.
Oh,
what we're gonna
I'm
find
100% with you on that. I
Yeah.
agree.
That's one of the things we're going to find out.
I just don't want
Yeah.
these people to
Right.
have to go through what I went through when I first got here. You know, it's abhorrent. And let me also say thank you for coming, because you've been a beacon of light, and I do hope you make this a monthly endeavor.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, anything else? You did it again, Ms. Richardson. You just a rebel rouser.
She's passionate. She's passionate.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's very enlightening.
When is your term up again? No.
Very enlightening stuff that you do.
All right. We go on to this
Thank you.
community redevelopment staff. Thank you, Ms. Kirk. Great job. Ms. Tolliver, you're on board.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Good evening, board members. I just
evening.
thought it
Good
was
evening.
Hello.
in order to do my report from down here. Following up on one of the items from our last meeting, Ms. Washington was not able to attend the task force meeting that she wanted to attend, and I'm just going to give some high-level discussion that we had. It was Housing Authority, City of Daytona, and the County of Volusia had representatives at the task force meeting. And the area that we're focusing on is distressed public housing property, specifically Caroline Village and Palmetto Park. And we basically just talked about the roles that each agency would play. The Housing Authority would be the lead on the planning grant application, and the city would be a co-applicant, and then we would get support from the other organizations, specifically Bethune-Cookman as well as the county, and I'm not sure of the other agencies that will join us. But the meeting was about an hour and a half, and there is going to be a charrette that the Housing Authority will have on the 13th, and I have a flyer that I'll pass out once I finish. But the actual notice of the funding opportunity for the grant itself, the planning grant, was sent out to the public last Tuesday. So we're actively working on completing the application and getting it submitted for, I believe it's June 6th is the deadline for submitting the grant application.
What's the budget on that one?
I think it's around 300,000, 200 to 300,000, if I'm remembering correctly. Yep, and that's just a plan to identify the improvements to Caroline Village, Palmetto Park, and then there's a vacant property that the Housing Authority owns on Loomis. And they would like to include Pine Haven and the villages of Halifax through this grant.
And the end result will be a particular design, I guess a template, if you will, put on place for this particular parcel. This is what we're looking for.
Right. And in most cases, it will probably be the structures would be rebuilt because Palmetto Park, Caroline Village are dated. And the vacant lot would probably have the goal for the Housing Authority on the vacant lot on Loomis is single-family houses. But these are plans, and how much of that gets rolled out is to be determined. But their plan is their vacant lot will have single-family homes. Palmetto Park will be rebuilt. Caroline Village will be ideally rebuilt, but those are the plans.
What kind of, 6 months, a year? You have any idea?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. Yep.
I'm kind of bored. Any other questions relating to the task force and what their mission is? Before you go on, I want to make sure we take
I guess my question, Ms. Tolliver, is I think at one point there was a discussion regarding demolishing the Caroline Village because of the flooding that happened.
Yep.
So that has changed.
I think this is a plan. This is the best outcome. As you can see now, Caroline Village is under construction for families to go back in there. How long they're going to go back in there, I would guess and say until the next storm comes and floods it out. That's my guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know how long they plan to have them there. This planning grant, again, the deadline for submitting the application is June of this year. and I don't know how long it takes before you hear back on the submission for the application, but their plan is to do something with Caroline Village, and it is going to be part of this planning grant to do something with the property.
Is that a federal, state?
Yes,
It's
federal.
So it's HUD? Is it HUD?
Is it,
Housing and Urban Development?
is it HUD? Yes. It is?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It is HUD. Yes, it is. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that's tied in with the federal dollars for the flood mitigation
The
program.
disaster.
This is totally separate. This is like a next step beyond Hope 6. Hope 6 redid Pine Haven and Halifax. And this is, yeah, this is sort of like a phase 2 of improving dilapidated public housing. It is specifically for public housing, this grant, this choice neighborhood.
It's wasted money if we don't mitigate the floodplain, right?
Yep. And those, yeah, it's two separate issues
Right. Okay.
affecting, yeah.
Right.
And there's
Yep.
no way that those two can be tied together? Can we tap that money from?
One has nothing to do with the other. Yeah. One is the Army Corps of Engineers who's doing a study to address the flooding. This is a HUD initiative that is two separate branches on a tree.
So we need to access those dollars while they are there. And then, okay, so this is, got to call that transitional right now.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is.
All right.
Is there mention of the flooding issue that's part of the grant application?
It is
There's-
part of the reason why they need to address the public housing.
Okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't address it in terms of coming up with a solution to address it, no. It's one of the factors that is impacted by the public housing.
Any involvement or any contact with the Corps of Engineers at all?
City staff, but not this.
Public Works, is it Public Works?
Yeah, but not this choice.
Right.
yeah.
I know they're separate, but they're together at the same time.
They are.
And what I'm saying is that if the Corps is doing any kind of analysis right now, then why wouldn't the Corps also know about this grant we're trying to do to I guess, upgrade the results of the flooding?
What I'm saying is staff in terms of redevelopment can and will pass that information on because part of the grant will include some narrative about flooding.
Yeah.
And how they match up is to be determined, but yes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay, that's
That answers it, yeah.
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 Yep.
Yeah, because the Corps may look at this project without even thinking about the housing issue. And if that's the case, when they match it up or, everybody has a needs plan, and they basically attack the needs plan based on the squeaking wheel, so to speak. And so if our wheel gets more squeakier vis-a-vis, we let the Corps know that this is not just any project we're trying to, mitigate with the flooding. It affects lives. It affects, 100 residents, 200 residents and stuff. And so any additional, I guess, urgency.
Yes, to support
Yeah.
the crisis. Absolutely.
And you'd be surprised.
Yep.
They don't know.
Got it.
And I've used this term before, economies of scale. You let these people know.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, it's going to be an individual making a subjective decision. That's just reality.
Yes.
And so they need to know. That's just my recommendation. They need to know, But anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, Ms. Richardson, you have your assignment for the week.
I have a question, Ms. Michelle. I don't know if you can answer it or not. I know they had a discussion with the Housing Authority and the county and everybody. Had they said anything else about the open area that is behind Pine Haven? That is what is going to be joined into that discussion?
Again, this is a plan,
Okay.
and as Mr. Woodyard mentioned when he was here last month, there is still an issue with getting the Eagle's Nest.
Saw them last week.
Yeah, so even though this is the plan, there is no guarantee that that land will be developed until whatever is lifted from building on that property. So it's included. It's better to include it than not, but
Okay.
yeah, all of that is part of the plan.
Okay.
Those lots, specifically the vacant lots, they're not going to do anything with the existing Pine Haven.
Yeah.
When I said Pine Haven, those are the vacant lots that
Okay.
are undeveloped right
Okay.
now. The same with the villages at Halifax. Those vacant lots that are undeveloped, those lots are what they want to do something with.
Okay.
Thank you. Yep. And the next, if you are finished with that, the next item, I just wanted to point out that I left a flyer at each one of your areas about the Midtown Music Concert that starts this Saturday.
Yeah.
And then the next item is the Crab and Seafood Festival that's going on the same weekend, the 29th of April. The Crab and Seafood Festival is on Dr. Bethune Boulevard, April 29th. Starts around 11 a.m. and it's going to go until about 8 o'clock that night. And at the same time, there's a 2023 housing fair and financial clinic that's going on at Allen Chapel, the Allen Chapel AME Church.
Yes, ma'am.
That starts at 10 a.m. and goes to 2 o'clock. And that's all I have, unless you have some additional questions for me.
Any other questions for Ms. Tolliver?
I think my question is regarding the property on the corner of MMB and is that Key Street? The one that the city just cleared?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the plan for that property?
Well, right now, we believe that our best option is to acquire the property next door. So we have tracked down the property owner next door going north. And so we're gonna, we got the information, and so we're gonna try to sit down with them and see if we can negotiate a purchase of that property. But the idea is to do something multifamily at that corner.
That's good.
Well, I think we need housing.
Yes, yeah.
Wherever we can put it, yeah, yeah.
And Michelle, this weekend, the paint up, right? Is it
Oh,
paint up?
there is another, thank you. There is another cleanup along Dr. Bethune Boulevard from Dr. King down to Ridgewood. They're gonna paint the curbs because the curbs took a beating over the bike week. They're gonna repaint the curbs and they're gonna freshen up the mulch. And they've done one and they're gonna do it again this weekend. Thanks for reminding me. This Saturday morning from 7:30 till about 2 o'clock.
What was the address again?
It's gonna start from Dr. King Boulevard and go down to Ridgewood. They typically meet right there where the old Singleton Cleaners is. They set up a tent there and
Okay.
Yep.
And what was the time?
7:30 a.m. till about 2 p.m.
Thank you.
And they have food, they have gloves, they have shovels, they have all the equipment. They just need the willing bodies.
Need some bodies. Okay.
Gonna go from what, MLK?
MLK down to Ridgewood on Dr. Bethune Boulevard.
Okay.
I just have a question, and maybe the question is not for you, I think it's for the attorney. I just wanted to make sure, is it okay that we attend the Caroline Village and Palmetto Park event for the Housing Authority? I don't wanna be out of turn.
It's a housing authority event. You know, just as long as you don't talk to each other about things that might come in front of this board,
Okay.
you're okay to attend.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Good job. All right, we're on item 7 now, Spotlight on Midtown. We'll have our usual Mr. Pierre Lewis introduce the business owner. Come on board. I do have one question to ask you, sir, before you get started. I do not own any Windsor ties at all. So when I see someone with a bow tie,
I knew where he was going.
I just got one question.
I knew he was going somewhere.
Is that a clip on or did you tie that?
Yeah.
Well, go sit down, sir. Go sit down.
I'll give you, Mr. Chair. Glad to see you're in good. Is this on? You, Mr. Chair. Glad to see you're in good spirits, and to the board. And point of reference: the 29th for the Seafood Festival is one day before my birthday. So in case you need to pin some on your calendar, as a reminder. So you'll know it's the 30th. But anyway, good evening. I was recently had the pleasure. One of our board members we had on the board before was Mr. Al Bush He has a company that's called Gold Bar Status that teaches entrepreneurship to people in the area. I happened to attend one of his workshops on Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune's Boulevard. And in that particular workshop, there was someone there that was talking about something that I always feel very passionate about, and that's raising revenue. And if not just raising revenue, but raising awareness towards finance, revenue, economic development. And when I looked at the meeting, first thing I did, like with normal things, I go to see if it tied in with something that we have on the Midtown Redevelopment Board, one of the goals. Well, item number 10, actually a number of goals, says increase personal income in every socioeconomic group. So I thought since it parlayed right into one of the goals off of here, it'd be a great opportunity to have the gentleman that was speaking there, although their company is not in Midtown, they are providing a service to the residents that live in Midtown. Yes. His company is called, and a great book, which I think is great, and I'm sure you're going to talk about it. It's called How Money Works. And with that, what I'd like to do is introduce to the board Mr. Christian Brown.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming.
Commissioners, my name is Christian Brown. I'm at 912 Tamerlane Street in Deltona. As Mr. Lewis said, I do serve all of Volusia County, although I live on the west side of town. The How Money Works company, decided to become a financial literacy educator and coach about 6 years ago. The reason being is because I myself was going through financial difficulties. Being a recipient of Social Security disability benefits, as you may know, it's not something that provides the greatest lifestyle for an individual. So I decided to change my life. And I did so with the How Money Works company. And how else better to do that than to become the master of the one thing that I needed the most, which was money.
Right.
Financial literacy is a life skill that is not really taught in school, it's not really taught in colleges. We really don't get it from friends, family members. We rarely get it from our churches. So a lot of people make mistakes along the way when it comes to managing their money successfully. And this is where I come in. Our company has a goal to reach 20 million families the next 10 years with financial literacy, education, and coaching. Sounds lofty, but after us all experiencing the effects of the pandemic, many families realized if they miss one, maybe 2 or 3 paychecks, they're in financial ruin. Right. And it's our company's goal to help fix that with education and coaching. A lot of times in the neighborhoods that are impoverished or blighted, so to speak, it's not that the residents don't have money, but it's what they choose to do with their money. Mm-hmm. And with the proper education, with the proper coaching, we believe that we can turn people's lives around with how they spend their money and being able to utilize it in a way that will help empower and uplift not only themselves, their families, but the rest of the community as well. So this is why I'm here. This is what I do in the community. And as Mr. Lewis was able to mention, this little book that we have here has been featured on television almost 300 times. News stations like CNBC, MSNBC, Telemundo, ABC, CBS, it's all over the nation right now. And it's our goal to make it a household name. It's our goal to have this book next to every single Bible in people's homes. Something as common as the Bible, financial literacy, education, and coaching should be that common in people's households.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I've got a ton of questions, but I'll start. Ms. Bonner, have any questions?
I understand, and it's interesting because you shared your own plight about, how that directed you into going into this. Do you find that that people of all levels are receptive to what you're doing? I know sometimes in some of the trainings that we've had, for younger people and for people in general, there's still, for a lot of people, it seems to be a difficult process still once they attend the sessions and even sometime read the books. there's a part where sometime it can lapse for them. So I was wondering, how do you work generationally with that,
Great question.
especially in our community?
Well, right now, this educational system is being used as employee wellness programs. We're in churches, we're in schools. The difference between what we do and every other company out there is the educational portion, but predominantly it is coaching. We have a 7-step process that we take individuals and families, kind of hold their hands, so to speak, to get them from wherever they are in their financial lives to where they want to be, which is financially free and financially secure.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Ms. Richardson.
Well, I met Mr. Brown at the seminar that was hosted, and I already have one of the books.
Fantastic.
And I am reading it, and it is very informational. I have some for my children as well, because I want to become financially informed and debt-free. So that is a way to do that. And I previously met him, wonderful person, and thank you for coming and sharing the ability to be to have financial literacy for our community. We need that and stuff. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, how could we get you prominently known and available in Midtown?
What I can do, Commissioner, I can leave an information packet. It will have a copy of the book as well as contact information, and I'm open to discuss that.
That's great.
I mean, and the reason why I'm asking, I saw that we've had so many other different things. I saw we've got some handouts about where's the knock on the, where is it? Something.
The one about the housing? Yeah, about the housing.
You know, and it's gonna be difficult to qualify for first-time homeowners and everything else if you're not literate in terms of finances. You know, I think that will be step one in terms of many of our residents being in a position to improve the quality of life for everybody in Midtown.
Definitely. You know, having more homeowners is excellent, but having homeowners that can stay in their homes long-term is definitely the goal.
You're absolutely right.
You know, education and coaching would be the driving force behind that. You know, once a family is placed in their home, them having a process that they can follow, someone that can check in with them, hold them accountable, and make sure that they're taking the steps necessary after receiving the proper education is going to be key in keeping them in their homes.
You're on board, Ms.
You
Richardson?
know I've got something to say.
Yes.
Thank you for coming. I have a comment and then I have a question. My comment is that I recognize your book from MSNBC. Stephanie Rule absolutely loves you, and she extols your book. My question is, do you offer any workshops, webinars, seminars, or something like that our residents can get into?
Yes, we do have classes in person and on Zoom. It will be up to that particular entity to schedule the time, date, and place, and our licensed certified educators come, provide the education, and our education also comes along with the book at no cost. That's how important we feel financial education is.
Mr. Magala.
Well, two things. Let me just comment. I know you talked about, having the Bible and your book, and you're very correct. I think there's nothing that the Bible does not address that pertains to human life. The Bible deals with stewardship, being good stewards of the things that God has given to us. So basically what your book is doing is getting from the Bible the things that we need to be able to do if we are going to be able to succeed. And Mr. Chair, and I'm not preaching, but I think Jesus says, I came that you might have life and have life more abundantly. not when you get over yonder,
Right.
but right here and now. And I think it's things like this that can be able to help our people understand that we have to manage the, whether you have plenty or you have little, you have to be able to manage what you have. My question would be, have you made attempts to maybe reach out to the Volusia County schools to see if you can get in there? Because I believe if you can begin teaching this to the younger generation, you can change generations to come.
We're working on getting past the red tape when it comes to that. Provide us with some assistance. However,
We're just board members.
what we're doing is starting with the teachers, hopes that the information can be disseminated from there. Our goal, as a matter of fact, April is Financial Literacy Awareness Month, and we have something called the Booked Up event, where our educators come in, provide books at no cost, and provide education on a school level, whether it's high school, middle school, or elementary school. Our education fits any setting, from schools to churches to professional entities and professional environments. And to piggyback off of what you said, Ecclesiastes chapter 9, money answereth all things.
Well.
And how we utilize that, it definitely comes back to stewardship. So
Correct.
I completely agree.
Correct. And maybe I can get your information, we can invite you. I got a couple of my members here and all of that, so we can, you can come and speak to our membership. And then we have, I think about 23 churches, in Volusia County. One of the churches is right in Deltona, Greater Faith.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can invite you to come and do a presentation.
Sure. Would love to do
Membership.
so.
Yeah.
Ms. Hardy.
All right, I've met him before. He's actually came in, him and Mr. Bush, done a financial literacy workshop with my teens at the Boys and Girls Club before. So, thank you for coming in. I would like for you to come back though, because I'm actually doing education trainings now with my 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. Every Thursday we do Money Matters, so it'd be great for you guys to come in and just add on to what they're already learning. So,
Sure,
thank you
would
for
love
coming in. Now, my second question. This is pretty much for everybody in the room. I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer, but I'm a bit of a realist. All right, so with everything going on with our U.S. dollar, and our country's dollar is about to collapse with everything going on with BRICS, all these other countries coming together to collapse our dollar. What is your advice for the average citizen working a 9-to-5, paycheck to paycheck, with everything that's about to happen with our U.S. dollar?
Well, I'm not going to profess to be an economist of any sort, but again, it's utilizing the resources that you do have to the fullest extent. If we are in a situation where our dollar no longer has any value, then at that point, we would have to examine what we hold valuable. Goods and services, where are we going to get our food from? Starting things like growing food in our own communities, being able to provide education in our own communities. If school boards, things of that nature, no longer exist because they are government funded, we're getting to a point where we're going to have to begin to rely on each other more so
Absolutely.
than ever before.
Absolutely.
Okay, I got a couple questions. It's amazing. Like minds think alike. It's either that, and because we're frat, or he's been looking at my notes over here.
I don't know what you got on there.
But I was going to ask, what kind of partnership you're doing with the school board? You've answered that, but you also threw it back at us. I'll offer to go and try to set up a meeting. Let's start with Mainland High School or Holly Hill Middle. I'll do that with you to try to set up a meeting with the principal. I'll do that with you. I got no problem doing that. Worst thing can happen, they tell us no, right?
Exactly.
Second question is, how much it cost for your books?
They're at no cost.
Really?
Correct. All
Well,
about,
there's no such thing. It costs something to publish it, to print it.
Yeah.
we provide it at no cost.
But it costs something. What is it?
If you want to go on Amazon and order one, it's $16.50 plus shipping.
Yeah. What I'm thinking is, if we get in and get an audience with the school, with the high school or whatever, and they set something up, let's just say they do it one time. Let's get them to purchase some of your books, to 30 of your books or whatever. They have that kind of budget. I know that. The other thing is, if you stay long enough, you'll see we're going to be talking about our needs plan, which is something first time this board has ever done. And what I have on the list right now from Mr. Thompson is, and we'll get into detail what he was talking about. And I know what he's talking about with the improved communication, but he just added another one onto his list to needs plan, talking about a workshop on wealth building. I call it generational wealth building. So whether he knows it or not, he's added another thing to this list.
No, that's good.
And so, like I said, I'll offer that for myself. And we got some heavy hitters on this board that can probably get a better audience than I could. And it's always best to go there in numbers. And so I would ask any of the other board members if we set something up. Well, I guess we can't do it. He's going to tell us we can't do it.
You got the vote.
Right. But I whatever, I don't mind doing that with you. Because this is something we need. I tell people all the time, there's two ways you can make more money. Increase the top line and decrease the expenses, right?
Exactly.
So when you get on a fixed income, the only option is to do what? Decrease the expenses.
That as well.
Right.
Right now, 90% of American people, and we're talking 2 people working in a household, they cannot afford a $400 emergency.
Right.
And that's just a new set of tires on the family vehicle.
Right.
So this is why we're doing what we're doing. It costs to print the books, but we feel that having this education in the community is so important.
Right.
It is at no cost. And the classes that we provide and the coaching that we provide is at no cost as well.
It's a needed program. Like I said, I got a strong suspicion it's going to end up on our needs plan to do something like this on a regular basis. And the person that brought you on board for this workshop, he used to be up here a couple of years ago, so he knows what we're talking about. But great presentation. Thank you, Mr. Lewis, for doing your usual yeoman military. Good job. And great presentation. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. I'll leave an information packet. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
All right.
I'd like to get one of those.
Yeah. We're moving on to old business, item 8A, review and approval of board's 2023 needs plan. Just for the sake of those in the audience that first time they're hearing about this is something we've been discussing for 2 or 3 meetings, at least since February, I guess. And it all came about because I always say that before this, hopefully after this meeting, it will no longer be the case. But if you ask any of the 7 voting members and the 8th person, which is a non-voting member, what our purpose is on this board, you probably get 8 different responses, and that's not necessarily healthy. We need to always be marching to the same tune and speaking on the same sheet of music. When someone asks, what do you do on the redevelopment board? And we need to be able to reference them to a document that says that's what we're trying to get implemented. The strategic plan and the master plan for Midtown is a document, but it only becomes a living document if you actually take from that document and make something, turn it into a project. Otherwise, it's just a plan. And so that was the impetus behind this needs plan. So without further ado, I'll just kind of open it up for discussion. We handed out in the packet the list of projects that Michelle and I could recall that was discussed. We may have left off something. We may have not described it in detail. But again, I can tell you the only one that I knew what Mr. Thompson was referencing, but I'd like for him, if he can start with his project there, the Improved Board and Community Communications Project. And again, that's just from my memory and Michelle's memory on how this is worded. But if you can kind of give us some more discussion on what you were looking for with that particular project.
Well, let me start with the improved board communications. That encompasses how this board communicates directly to our Midtown community. Okay, and let's use how money works as an example. Okay, we've got a wonderful tool here. Okay, Midtown is in the midst of a food desert, right? Right. All the data shows that out. Why is it a food desert? Well, based on, I think, what is it, the disposable income of the citizens in Midtown, from a marketing analysis, there's not enough money being spent in Midtown, so grocery stores won't come here, basically. I mean, all that data is there. Well, why? Why isn't enough money being earned by the residents? Probably education and the earning potential. And so if we are able to empower our residents and make it known that we have some tools, resources available to them, we need to show them how, when, where, and why. Right. But we need to really, I think we need to organize them, and we need to motivate them, motivate us, all of us at the same time. And the most important way to do that is to be in a position to communicate the right way. The things that we feel are important to our Midtown residents. Okay. Get them inspired, motivated, excited, and then engage them. And so what we've got to do is crack that code. Right. How do we do that? Well, we got to rely on these experts in this room. Because I ain't an expert, you know. But we've got to figure it out, because if something bad happened right now, that news will leave this room right now either through this, right? Bad news travels a whole lot faster than good news. Yep. Now, if we said we were giving $1 million to everybody that responds in 20 minutes, we'd have everybody in Midtown and beyond calling Pierre's office now. So we got to figure this out, and that's what I'm talking about in terms of communication. We've got to find a way to do what corporate level officers haven't figured out either yet. Corporate communications is the hardest thing in the world to do. And most of you who worked in Fortune 500 companies in city government, it's a hit or miss proposition. But we got to figure out a way to do it, because Midtown is depending on us to do that. And so we've got to use the energy, the creativity that we have, our passion to move forward, to engage Midtown, to engage the stakeholders who have the ability to impact Midtown, so that we won't be left holding the bag or left at the bus stop watching the bus leave us. And that's really what I'm talking about in terms of our needs plan, that we've got to develop an improved community communications plan that will disseminate the information to our constituents that we feel are very important, that will allow us to build upon all this momentum that we want to create for Midtown.
And I'm glad I started with you. And the reason why I say that, this is the approach I want to take for the rest of this particular item. And forget about the number that we have in that number column. What you just discussed was number 4. But this is what I want to do, and I'm throwing this out as an option. And we'll use number 4 as an example. What I'm thinking, just as one way to do that, is to have, and we discussed this a couple of years ago, was to have a regular item on the City Commission's agenda to talk about what happened at the CRA for Midtown meeting. You know, if we don't do it every month, at least every quarter, where someone from this board sits back and say, "Hey, commissioners, I'm from the Midtown Redevelopment Board, and we've been busy. You know, we did this project, we did that project," because guess what? A whole lot more people look at that commission meeting than what they're looking at tonight.
Right. And we can call it a Midtown moment or something like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do. Okay. That's my recommendation. So that's the more specificity to the general. And that's just one way to do it. And we may have other ways. But I want to make sure when they see this list, they being whoever sees this list, it won't be, well, I like that idea, but how you gonna do it? Well, that's one way we're doing. It'll be underneath that particular line there for improved board communication, regular presentations to the city commission. It may be something we push for an article in the Daytona Times, something that improves our communication with the community. There's a regular, Darrell Bars publishes something on a regular basis. What's this called? What is it called? Yeah, we could publish something in there. He'll do it. I mean, that's the specificity that I'm talking about. It won't just be something somebody said, okay, that looks good, but so how you doing it? And so we can check it off. That's how we do that. We talk about number one on the list, infrastructure project. What does that mean? Well, we get more specific, sidewalks on MLB, something like that. You get more specific, and so we can track that during the year. Because I'm all about, whether or not we can track what we're talking about. Otherwise, you're just having a nice discussion, So that's what I want to get to in more depth when we're talking about these projects, because I definitely have some ideas with what I'm talking about on the one I'm talking about, number 6 there. So with that, if you're good with that one.
Yeah, and I can craft you a template for the board to consider. Okay. And we can take a crack at it that way.
For your item?
Yes.
Okay.
That item.
All right. So we'll start with number 1. You're number 1, sir. Your project on the list there.
Infrastructure?
Yeah. So explain to the audience what you're looking for, what you think about in that project, and then we'll try to get more specific to list something underneath that.
Well, basically, when I highlighted the issue of infrastructure in the Midtown area, I was concerned that there were, a lot of developments going on the beach side, and then pass through Midtown, nothing was really happening, and then you had Daytona, one Daytona. And then when you looked at streets in the Midtown area, the sidewalks, it seems like it was a lot of neglect. Okay. So what I want to make sure is that residents in Midtown area sharing some of those concerns, so we can make sure that those are, being addressed. Mm-hmm. And I think I spoke specifically when Ken Thomas came on board. I think I met with Ken Thomas and Michelle Tolliver at my office, and so I told them about how the streets, particular Pine Street. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pine Street that had never been resurfaced in over 20 or 30 years.
What's the deal with it basically abutting with the gates there to your property? How was that?
Well, we did that because there was a lot of activities going
traffic.
on, so we decided to go out and block that. Okay. And we did get support from, the City of Daytona Beach Police Department because, they were having to deal with a lot of that. Mm-hmm. But that street, I think after I met with Ken and Michelle, within 30 days, people were there, resurfaced the street and all of that. Mm-hmm. And I think most of the streets in that area now have been resurfaced. But we have Washington Street that passes right in front of our church. MLK turns into Washington Street. Mm-hmm. And we have residents that live in that area. If they're coming on Washington Street, there are no sidewalks, so they actually have to walk in the street. And then you have people that are driving there, coming through there about 40, 50 miles an hour. Right. And to me, that's dangerous. So one of the things that I wanted to see happen is really addressing the issue of infrastructure in the Midtown area, whether it be sidewalks or streets or lighting. Mm-hmm. I think we need to address that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, on that one then, because the staff puts together, I guess they get this from Public Works Department and stuff. And for that item, we can list what's going on. Like you said, the paving was done.
Correct.
Shortly after that. Because again, the main thing is and I'm just being honest, for folk to see that we're doing some work here.
Right.
I'm just being honest about it. And so if we can list, and that obviously it sounds like for number 1, that'll be kind of an ever-changing list as the year goes on. as projects go on. And we can, I always said, this is not going to be a static list. If it is, then we're in trouble. It needs to be a living document, something that's changing, not necessarily written in pencil, but hard to erase, pencil anyway. And only for the purposes of scratching it off because we've done it, or adding to it, or embellishing some more to that particular line item and stuff. And so that's what I'm seeing for that particular one. Number one, we can list what's already been accomplished. Right. That's something we would literally list that we will review and approve when it's ready. I don't know. I'm hoping we can do this tonight. Understanding that we can make changes. We can always amend the needs plan. You can always amend it. So I'd like to leave here tonight with an approved needs plan. That's just what I would like, and that's why I'm trying to get more specific. So for that one there, tell us again what those projects that was already done for number one.
I think a number of our streets have been resurfaced. Okay. The Midtown area.
They've already been, okay.
They've already been done. I think a number of our sidewalks have been done, but, we still need to go out and work on a number of them. Okay. Particularly right there on Washington Street.
Okay.
I know that over on Eames Boulevard, I don't mean to jump in, I apologize. They have filled in potholes over there, so that is infrastructure improvement.
Correct.
For sure.
Correct.
So I do see some improvement over there.
Right.
Well, we could, if we can ask the staff to let's pull off about 4 or 5 projects that are, I guess, if not from this public works projects list, as close as possible. Maybe coordinate with Reverend Magala on the specific projects, because again, I would like to have bullets underneath each one of these generic, if you will, list of projects to be specific. So let's move on to Ms. Hardy.
I know I spoke about the neighborhood beautification, and thanks to the city commission, they've already basically started the process to the beautification of Midtown by redoing the outside of the Dickerson Center. That's going to make a drastic change in the way the neighborhood looks alone by itself. Mr. Pierre, can I get your assistance with this? I know that there was a plan that we already had. It was according to the master plan that talked about things that we can do to beautify Midtown, right?
Right, yeah, there's a... May I approach, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, please.
Give it to the boys. Yeah, I was just actually looking at some of the goals, as a matter of fact, President McGill and Mr. Thompson was there, and looking at there's a part that talks about the rebuilding of the community initiatives, and there was someone in the property, and I was trying to find them where it provides incentives to cause rehabilitation, historic, architecturally significant buildings within the redevelopment area. That's somewhere the beautification falls on there. And the reason I mentioned, because that's the goals, but when you go back to the objectives, that's where it starts talking about the beautification falls underneath that. So a lot of, even to the point, if I had just a little bit of leeway, Mr. Chair, when Mr. Thompson was talking about like communications, that falls under, you can see that falls right under number 12, increasing the number of local residents participating in Midtown's community initiatives and activities. So that falls right into one of the goals that's there. Right. It can be substantiated there. And then when Pastor McGullough was talking about lighting, if you look at the goals, item number 15, 15 says increase public safety and that crime prevention. That's one of the things we talked about before. And the reason, because I heard the pastor say about lighting. When you go to the goal sheet on that, lighting actually falls underneath that because that's a part of reducing the crime. There was something I remember talking to Mr. Bryant one time. It's called the CPED or something design, Mr. Chair. Except, there you go. The new city, what is it? Attorney. Yeah. There you go. I got that right, Mr. Garland. Get that on the record, man.
Get it right.
Right. More to go. But that falls right under that. But yes, that's what it is right there.
Thank you, Miss.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Thanks. Anything else on yours? Okay. Yeah. So I've got Dickerson Center. What else could we list under there? Yeah.
Just figuring out ways to help, example, those residents that can't afford to make the outside of their properties more inviting, like paint and cutting their grass and things like that. That would help with the way Midtown overall looks when you go into the neighborhood.
Okay. All right, number 3, Ms. Richardson. That's pretty straightforward anyway.
Yeah, it is absolutely straightforward. But I wanted to put on the record that I saw a listing on Facebook that the mayor listed in regards to home ownership that was, I don't know what you call them, but they are the containers, like the actual big giant containers that he went to see, and he was impressed with how it was set up. And I think he may be looking into trying to find a way that those containers, like they're the ones that would be, they're the steel containers that you can turn into a home.
Okay.
So he listed that on Facebook a couple of days ago, that he went to see it.
You talking about like the containers you on the back of trains?
No, on the ship. Put on the ship.
On the ship, yeah.
Okay.
Bigger than Paul.
I know, but the real,
Yeah,
they're almost like a big.
Okay.
Yeah, and stuff, so
Okay.
he said he went to go see it, he was very impressed, he wanted people's ideas about them. You can stack them, you can turn them into homes.
Right.
It could be an opportunity for home ownership for people.
Yeah.
He said you could stack 3 of them, and it was less than $150,000 to have all 3 of them, turning them into
Converted.
a home, converted into home ownership for people.
Okay.
So that home ownership is critical, and we need that. Any way that we can figure out how to go outside of the realm, the norm of being able to purchase a home, because they're just too expensive and they're outside of what people can actually afford. Yeah. So if we can think of a way to be able to, think outside of the box, how to be able to help people to obtain, whether it's one of the storages that's turned into homes, whether it's, I don't want to say tiny homes and stuff, but I know that it's just different states, different areas are doing different things to try to alleviate homelessness. And anything that we can think of, I am on board for that.
Okay.
And for your information, Renee, that's going to be one of the highlights for the housing fair.
Okay.
They're going to have actually a model of the container house there.
Okay, I'm kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
all right.
What we have on the list here is home ownership workshop classes. What you just described is just is examples of affordable home ownership.
Yes.
Okay. Which is fine. Do you want to change the wording of this?
I think that we should keep the wording and then also add the ability for people to understand how to purchase that. I mean, you have to do the workshops because it's not going to be an easy, thing. But the first step of it is taking the workshops, doing the legwork, going through the counseling, doing the credit. All of those things are the first step of moving in that way or particular lane, so that they would be able to purchase, whether it's an actual home, a condo, or one of the containers that may be able to be turned into home ownership. So we should definitely keep the workshop idea.
Let me offer this as a suggestion, a friendly amendment. I would change it to say increased home ownership. Okay.
Okay.
And then as an item under that, workshops.
Okay.
And then maybe another one will be examples, or coming up with. Understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to keep it, because workshop is specific. But if you keep if the item is generic enough or general enough, then you put underneath that the specifics of how to achieve the big one. Like we were talking about with Mr. Thompson, his communications. We put under there, going to the city commission, reaching out. That's specific. The general is just increasing communication. That's just one way of doing it. Right. And what I'm saying is that this workshop is one of those bullet items under something general. And the general, because I think your overall goal is to increase home ownership.
Yes.
And so one way to do that, obviously, is to do the workshops, the classes, and things of that sort. Also, we talked about examples. We can show examples like the container. So Just a friendly amendment.
No, that's a perfect suggestion, and I think having the container at the workshop or
Right.
The fair.
the fair that's coming, it would be a great opportunity for people to walk through, touch, feel, and see. That is definitely the key, because people, you can tell them all day long, you can end up with a house, but if they want to see what it would look like, it's the perfect
What they're working
opportunity.
towards, yeah.
This is the perfect
more of a
opportunity to have
reality,
somebody to
yeah.
come and do a walk.
It's a motivator.
Yes, it's definitely a motivator.
Yeah, it's much more
So it's perfect.
reality too, you know.
All right, so we good with changing?
I have a question about that.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Again, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I'm sorry.
Too late.
I worry about inflation.
Okay.
Right? That's just bottom line. Everything is going up. We can speak about container homes, and yes, I've viewed many of them online. Amazing how they take these small containers and make them livable for whole families. Like, it's freaking amazing. But everything is like rising quickly. So we can tell the average family, okay, go take a course on how to balance your finances and how to get your credit together and how to save your money, to just, because these banks are all over the place right now, still be denied. You understand what I'm saying? So I guess for me, how can, I guess, connecting with financial institutions that we know will move forward to actually help those families once they've gone and done all the legwork and their hopes are all high and they're ready to make that move for home ownership without being crushed in it. Because let me tell you, it happened to my husband and I last year. We went through the process, turned in all of our paperwork, everything. The company called us, you got your pre-approval, right? We're all excited, we're happy. Called us back a week later, no, we're taking your pre-approval back. Your husband hasn't had his promotion long enough. So I have experienced it firsthand, how things could be snatched back from you after you've done all the work. So.
Mr. Chair, can I add one
Go,
thing?
please, go ahead.
Just to keep in mind, the city has a first-time homebuyer program. I don't know if Ms. Hardy went through that experience through a first-time homebuyer program, but the homebuyer program has relationships with lenders as well as counselors. And the lender is in business knowing that they're going to lend to someone with lower credit, and the risk may be higher. That's why they're a partner. And I don't think she's speaking in terms of the first-time homebuyer class that the city has.
Right.
That was a separate and personal situation that did not turn out the way they had planned. But the lenders who are involved with the first-time homebuyer program with the city is in business to lend to riskier clients.
Right.
Which, she's describing a situation where she went in thinking that the additional income would help them get approved, but they also look at the amount of time that you have been employed, and that's something that the first-time homebuyer class, and I'm sure Mr. Brown's experience with people who are trying to improve themselves, there's a number of months that you have to be doing something in order to be eligible.
And I appreciate chiming in on that, because definitely, well, it sounds like the city already has relationships with banking institutions. Obviously, I'd like to see that increased, because banks, there are people that we all know that have almost 800 scores and they're being denied. And there's no other reason for it, because I say it all the time, at the end of the day, it's a subjective decision, folks. They can come up with all kind of numbers.
Yeah, my husband had a 720 score at the time.
It's a subjective decision, and folk, we need to stop playing these games. And the city deposits millions of dollars every week into these banking institutions. And I can tell you right now, if I got $1 million in a bank, and I tell them I want you to make sure Ms. Richardson has a loan, guess what they're gonna do?
They're gonna do it.
That's a fact. If I got $1 million at an institution, I tell them I want her to get a loan. She gonna get a loan. I don't care if she has a 200 score.
That's right.
That's real. So I'm just saying, folk, and I appreciate you saying that. But there's something else I want to discuss tonight, but it's definitely something that the city needs to address. We deposit gazillion dollars every month, every week, and we've never called them to the carpet. 32114 is not just a food desert. It's a financing desert as well. And there's no reason for it. I remember the lady, I forget who she worked for. She came about a year or so ago. She was saying that she had gotten a grant for over $1 million. And she was saying we got grants to provide, training, whatever. And she said that we've got, the problem we have in 32114, we've got high-paying jobs, but they're being given to folk outside of 32114. I'm gonna say it again. She said 32114 has some of the highest paying jobs in the whole city, but they're being given to folk that don't live in the 32114. And so that's a reality. And again, that's subjective, but we need to correct that. But I'm getting off my high horse. We need to take care of this. We're on an 8 o'clock schedule here. Anything else, Ms. Harding?
That's it.
All right. We put Pine Haven Development Project. We couldn't figure out who came up with that one. Was that something we just didn't hear properly, or was this who came up with that one?
That was Miss Washington, wasn't it? Miss Washington.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And does anybody remember what she was referring to when she brought that up?
Because she grew up in
Pine Haven, yeah. And what you think it had to do with the eagle's nest and
Yes,
stuff?
yeah, she did focus on that.
Okay. I like the project. I mean, we definitely need to see. I think that's something we one of the things we discussed last month was, trying to get some powers to be to make phone calls up to Washington to get that albatross, the eagle's nest off the, I guess, the reason why we can't improve that 10-acre plot of land. I guess, I don't know what that many acres is. It's a big plot of land over there.
Yeah.
But, so I like that project there. I mean, it's very specific, and that's fine. Now we know who to put it to, Ms. Washington. All right, so any discussion on that one? Anything we want to add to it?
Who can we call for that? Who can we reach out to for that? Who can we partner with?
That's obviously the Housing Authority.
Well, Charles mentioned that he knew some angles. He knew that there might be some exceptions that he could explore.
Right. He did say that.
Right.
And that's the federal government. That's not local government. That's federal.
Yeah, it's the, I want to say Department of Interior or whoever handles the Eagle's Nest. I think
Either
it's
them or
Department of-
wildlife, probably, interior, yeah, either one of those.
So I think that's who it is, so, yeah. All right, we're gonna add Ms. Washington's name to that one under who, the member's name. Mr. Lewis? Okay. You want to say something, Mr. Lewis?
Well, it's just that I worked in public college I studied for there for 12 years, and 20-some years I was there. And I would suggest that Mr. Pete Gamble, I remember when that first came around where they were talking about that.
true.
He would be the individual, the gentleman to he knows it verbatim. He dealt with it every day. So I'm sure he knows the points of contact that would help you from people trying to search who they probably need to call. Because he had to deal with it all the time. When the first Eagle came about, when the Hope Six and all that stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd be a good contact to talk to.
We'll make that call. Okay. All right, the one that I added that, well, let's, do we need, you don't have it on your sheet, but I mentioned it, the generational wealth building thing, Mr. Thompson added. He didn't know it, but he added to that.
And I put it under financial wellness, and I'll put.
So you're gonna call the project itself financial wellness?
Yeah, because I think that that would be one of the byproducts of community communications.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
That we can see the growth in terms of projects and the literacy rate of our citizens, and also the employability rates, education, and economic impact and
Okay.
everything else. So those indicators should be able to go up.
Now, we keeping it as a separate one, or we adding it, you saying you add it as a bulleted item under your communication?
I think what I would do is say that those might be some of the ultimate outcomes of an improved communication plan.
Okay.
That we can begin to target projects.
Okay.
And each project, as a part of that plan, you know, when we have a project, if we enlist the right tenets of the plan, we can target the citizens with the same communications plan to disseminate the information with those outcomes to make sure that the right people are getting it in the right frequency with the intended outcomes to be reached. So if it's, say, if we're targeting all of Midtown, and our goal is to make sure that 21% of Midtown participates in this.
Okay.
You know, and if we say out of 21% of Midtown, that 12% of them will benefit, and we'll see an increase in the quality of their life, some kind of way we get the right people to track that, then we'll see growth from that, and we could target that growth and be able to quantify it.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about, those kinds of things.
What I was thinking, Mr. Chairman, if I could chime in quickly, is instead of doing Midtown as a whole, why can we not spotlight certain neighborhoods, you know, and do concentrated communications, you know, something like that, and then rotate it around and maybe get a better outcome that way.
And I
That's just a thought.
I agree with that. There may be some instances where there may be a need to concentrate on a certain area. For instance, if we're talking about infrastructure improvement over by Allen Chapel, you know, we may be able to target that area for something. But this, and a communications plan will be able to do just that, you know, to target the citizenry in an area to just make sure we're using the bullhorn to just send this to those folks, but at the same time, it can be used to do more than one thing.
And I would like to add just a couple of ideas, General. And I think that this might go under a couple of different headings. I had thought about this since our last meeting. I would like to see more internships, apprenticeships, workshops, as you had said, to involve. And my other thought, and if anybody wants to expound on this, please do, on either of these ideas. With the rising crime rate that we just saw with the report, why can't we do a community watch? I know that, unfortunately, my neighbor across the street, and it was just pure vandalism, but somebody had left her outside spigot on all night long. And this poor lady is in her 80s. She's not going to be able to handle the bill. And she's asked me if I can go get her the lock that you put over the spigot. So, but if we had community watch, and I know on my street, they come on these motorcycles and all-terrain vehicles, and they will be doing 70 miles an hour down the road. It's a wonder somebody's not hurt behind this. So, just a thought.
Well, let me let's go back to, I'm gonna come back to yours. Go back to Mr. Thompson. Help me, I'm slow tonight.
No problem.
Okay. Help me understand, I guess, the nexus between the financial wellness and the communication. I understand wellness, the financial wellness, I get that. I like it. I want it to be on the list. I'm thinking still that they're two separate items.
No, they are two separate.
Okay.
items. They are. But let's just look at the communications plan first of all, standalone.
Right.
There's nothing we can't do anything effectively without a communication.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the communication plan is like the
That's
top.
that is the foundation.
Yeah, I get that.
Right.
I get that. Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't clear, but I'm thinking. I thought I was hearing you say the communication plan is can be improved with the wellness. And I know that's all what you were saying.
That was
Yeah,
reversed.
I know, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm hearing it now.
No, the foundation is the communications
Right,
plan.
right.
So that means that
Okay.
the staff will be able to utilize it.
Okay.
You know, and so we'll have it's a philosophy and a framework that we'll be able to use.
Right, and sticking with the template that we're that I was recommending, the financial wellness would be the general term, and then, you know, the presentation that Mr. Christian gave would be one of the bulleted item under that, right? So we're on the same term. Okay, good. I just want to make sure we're on the same term. All right, so we're good. All right. Now, anything else as far as on the list?
I remember we talked about, or at least I know it was in my mindset, about the entrepreneurship, offering some more on that, even though that is a reality already in some existence, that and vocations. And as you said, Joan, that was what I thought that we were going to have here. But I know it does tie in with some of the others.
Well, it actually ties in with mine.
Right.
That was literally
Okay.
what I'm talking about. Because to me, I'm all about signing the front of the check. Sorry, that's what I'm about. You know, and I mean, it's okay. I signed the back of the check for years, but I like to sign the front of the check. I just do. Call me crazy. And that's what I'm trying to get to with this right here. One way to increase business development, investment, whether we're talking about putting on workshops, we're talking about pooling resources, whatever, providing grants to upstart businesses. That's what we're talking about. And, you know, what I got here is just a general term, but I can come up with a whole litany of bulleted items on how to achieve increased small business development investment. And so, without getting into specifics, but what you're talking about, Ms. Bonner, is what we're talking about. You know, putting on workshops. I mean, in actuality, what this gentleman would fall under mine as well.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so that's what I'm talking about with that. And I think we kind of got a clear idea. Obviously, we're gonna massage it a little bit, you know, later. We'll probably come back next month and fine tune it. But again, my goal tonight we got 14 minutes to see if we good. We good?
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah,
So,
fine.
do we have a motion to approve what we discussed, understanding that between myself and staff, we'll massage it, make it look as close to as possible what we discussed tonight. You know,
And I'll come back with a template of a communications plan that the staff can
that's what we need.
massage as well.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to
Mr.
review.
Collins, which of these plans are we gonna agree to start first?
Well,
One of
it's
these.
just one list.
Okay.
This, and I'll let me go over. Before we get there, I'm gonna go over what I have as far as my notes here. The infrastructure project we have, and again, this will be, you know, more specifically spelled out when you see this list again. For that one, it's number one. We have where'd I put it? We have the sidewalks in Washington. We have repaving projects that's been done. So those are the kind of specifics we'll get under
Construction.
your infrastructure. For the Pinehaven project, we're gonna invite Mr. Gamble to come back and talk, and, you know, maybe just have him give us an update on that one there. But as far as the specific list, without going into the bulleted part, we have infrastructure projects, number one. We're keeping neighborhood beautification as it's written. We've reworded number three to be, where did I put it? Increase home ownership. That's what the new title is, number three. And improve board community communications. Do we need to massage that? You know, you happy with that one, the way it's spelled out, or you want to rename it? I think didn't you come up with a rename or something like that, or you didn't?
No, I just said a communications plan, you know, a community communications plan. But I'm
Just a board communication, because everything we do is for the
Midtown
community.
moment.
Well, that would be one of the tenets of the plan.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we would
Yeah, that's.
present something like that to the commission. Right.
Okay.
So I said craft the Midtown Communications Plan.
That's the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Okay. All right. Excuse me while I write this down. Okay. So number 4 is rephrased to say craft the Midtown Communications Plan. Okay? And number 5 stays the same, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Number 6, that stays the same as well. And a new number 7 is coming from Mr. Thompson, and it's financial wellness, correct? Okay. We good? Everybody's clear on what we gonna be reviewing and approving?
Yes.
So with that, I'll take a motion.
I would like to set a motion that we accept all of the, what is this? The redevelopment needs plan, the outline of it, and to be discussed and massaged for our next meeting.
Yeah. They're fine-tuned. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
A second.
All right, is there a second? Any discussion, any changes? All hearts and minds are clear. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Like sign? Motion carries. We have a needs plan, folks. You want to say anything, Mr. Thompson?
No.
Okay.
Great job tonight.
Okay. Now, we'll go into, we had no new business. Where my agenda at?
The Midtown Youth Theater, that's the proposal.
Yeah, we do have new business, the Midtown Youth Theater Arts proposal.
And Mr. Chair, I need to just step in for a second here. As you know, if you've looked at the backup materials, which are very impressive, you see Mr. Thompson as a participant for obviously good reasons in the production that I think you're going to be asked to recommend that the city give a grant to. And we have a code of ethics, and I had some discussions with Mr. Thompson. The code of ethics has a voting conflict rule, which says that you shouldn't vote on something that would go to your special private gain or loss.
Right.
Mr. Thompson's already explained to me that he would be volunteering his services toward the production of the play. However, Mr. Thompson's daughter would be part of that production group and would be drawing income from that. Under the Florida ethics rules, that creates a voting conflict for Mr. Thompson. It's just something he has to report on a form, and all it means is he can't vote. He can actually partake in the discussion of whether the grant should be received. I did want to point out one other thing, because the code of ethics, of course, is very complicated. There are restrictions on doing business with your own agency or doing business with a business that's doing business with your agency. In this case, if Mr. Thompson had a contract with the grantee and was receiving income through that contract, then that would be a separate conflict, which would affect Mr. Thompson's ability to just be on the board. It's not a voting conflict. It's what's called a status conflict. However, as Mr. Thompson told me, and as I've already mentioned, he's not drawing any income or in a contractual relationship with the group. He's just, out of the kindness of his heart and goodwill toward the community, wanting to participate in this. So he does not have that conflict. Right. I just wanted to get that on the record. The only thing that Mr. Thompson needs to be concerned about in terms of the play is the voting conflict. And Mr. Thompson, the board secretary, has a form for you to fill out. And if you have any questions about filling out that form, feel free to call Mr. Thomas or Ms. Tolliver or myself.
No problem. You need me to fill it out tonight?
No, sir.
Okay.
I think it is, though, like a 5-day or 7-day turnaround. I will
can have it to you tomorrow.
Sure, sure.
Okay, who's going to speak on the item? Okay.
Do you have any questions? I mean, the document that's in your folder, Mr. Chairman, and the board, gives you an idea of a summary of the play itself, a synopsis. In addition, there is a a budget that goes along with the play itself, A Change for Redemption. And the synopsis talks about what the play is based on, Midtown, of course, which is, germane to what you all are doing. And from what I can hear and what I've read about the play, it is focused in on Midtown. In the early years of Midtown. And I've had a discussion with the production company about utilizing or at least doing the production here in the city, possibly in one of the venues with the city,
Right.
maybe at the college or maybe at the Peabody,
Right.
whichever one we can come to some kind of agreement. But on the staff point of view, we thought that this was a magnificent idea to partner with the people in the community, because it would be something that they can relate to and they understand, and it may be, part of the play. They may remember a lot of the characters, maybe not the names, but the characters themselves.
Right, right.
In addition to, we talked about at some point down the road, including our youth in the production too as well, because the youth will be, or at least gives them an opportunity to learn about lighting, learn about casting, just the inner workings of putting on a production is what we want the youth to eventually take hold to and have an opportunity to be a part of the production at some point.
And if I can, and I don't want to be the tail wagging the dog, but the main thing you're being asked to do is to recommend that the city fund the play. And if it creates that groundswell of local community support, the second part of the plan would be to eventually to bring in Mr. Thompson's group to help train the youth. Now, at that point, and we've discussed this, there may be different issues, but that technically isn't really in front of you tonight. So there's no conflict for Mr. Thompson in terms of that being the hoped for, result out of doing the play at the front end.
Yeah, and if it gets to that point, I wouldn't. I mean, I think if it gets to the city commission for that second part, you won't even need our involvement because it'll be a done deal anyway. So we wouldn't have no conflict. It wouldn't come back to us in the first place. It'll already be done, which would be perfect.
And I'm available to answer any questions. I think.
Well, I do want you to just talk about,
Okay.
take about 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, for most of you who don't know, for most of my I'm sure Davina might know.
Yeah.
For most of my professional life, I've been involved in the arts as much as I've been involved in athletics. As a matter of fact, I got my start in Atlanta, Georgia, in the arts on stage and television and film. And I've been doing that as long as I was the director of athletics at Bethune-Cookman. I was able to marry those same talents in athletics and on the stage and in film and on radio. And actually, I wrote this play, A Chance for Redemption. I began writing it in 1989. And it centered on what was then Second Avenue and my upbringing of Second Avenue and how it began to change after urban renewal, redlining, and how the perception of the people in this town changed, and people were judging folks were judging the people by the condition of the buildings.
Right, right.
And that is something that is the bad thing to do. And so, and we begin to tell a story of many of these characters who frequent the places on Second Avenue, Dr. Bethune Boulevard, and we use a different name, and we took some creative license, and I say we, me and my creative muse, to depict the lives of many of these characters who frequented this area and told their stories, and how the richness of their lives really did not correlate to the condition of the buildings. And we also told the story of how the buildings became dilapidated. And one of the key points of the story is that there's a hobo, and many of you who are from here remember a guy named Hobo Tim, who told a story that says that we're so connected to the river and the ocean that Midtown is not dead. It's just experiencing low tide. And so while most folks who might not be familiar with Midtown, who may come and see the buildings, what they did not understand was that there were investors who were waiting for the right moment to either sell those buildings or redevelop them or regentrification to occur. And so we talk about that, and we talk about so many different things that are actually, and when I wrote this, these things are happening, Pierre, you know? And so one of my good friends, Sheila Davis, grew up, she was born in Daytona Beach. Her mother was Congresswoman Carrie Meek. She now is a veteran actress who owns this theater company in New York City, and she saw this several years ago and has been developing this piece. And the director who works in New York City with her on a lot of projects happens to be my oldest child, you know, and so we've been working, and all three of us were born in Midtown. And so, but the key point of this is that throughout America, in Pittsburgh, in Atlanta, in Los Angeles, where I just returned from debuting a film, we use the arts to bring about conversations, to change communities. And what I proposed to Mr. Thomas and others was that at the end of each performance, and we're just proposing a series of 4 performances, at the end in theater, at the end of the play, they do what they call talkbacks, where the actors will come back on stage and we'll bring about people from the community to sit there and talk about what they just experienced. So can you imagine a night where Pierre would come on the stage with Ken, the city manager, Hyatt Brown, and all of the rich power brokers, and say, while all of this growth is going on in Daytona Beach, what are we going to do about Midtown? And that's an environment, not a crowded city council chambers where things can get volatile, but an artist has a way of doing that creates an opportunity for dialogues and solutions. And folks are disarmed, and they have an opportunity to really say, you're right, what do we need to do about this? And bring about opportunities for solutions. And so I just saw this as an opportunity to deal with something that I'm passionate about. And that's the place I grew up in.
Right.
You know, now this play is under development, and it's, after those 4 nights, it's gonna go somewhere else. But we wanted it to premiere here, where it was born. I mean, you know, and this is, and where it will stimulate conversations about this area. Now, we've done stage readings of it, and folks who saw it, we did a stage reading last Christmas in Orlando, and the folks who saw it said, this is my hometown. This is the same things I've been dealing with in the neighborhood I grew up in. So it's any town USA.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was going to say this is like Frenchtown in Tallahassee.
So
Something else, yeah.
But we have an opportunity.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of the chance when I met with the 3 of you when we had our meeting, and we talked about what could revitalize Midtown and bring in reinvestment. The arts community normally starts things like this. When you see reinvestment coming back to communities, it's the artistic communities that really start bringing stuff in. And when you see investments like that, then you see police presence in a positive way. You see new things growing up. You see a statue like Dr. Bethune down there on the river, and you see so many things beginning to happen, and the value grows. And I just want to make sure that we are able to use whatever we can, that each one of us has an opportunity to bring forth. Like you brought today, you brought a concern about some slumlords. We're going to do something about that.
Oh, yeah.
And so we have the power, each and every one of us, to use what we have to bring about a change for Midtown. And I just saw this as my opportunity to use what God has given me to help change Midtown. And that's what it is.
I would go a step further and say that's one of the bulleted items under board communications. This right here.
Never thought about it.
It's perfect.
And those of you who don't know, I went to the Fresh Book Festival. One of my films was in the Fresh Book Festival, and I walked in.
It was great, yeah.
Thank you. I walked into to the Cherry Center. I grew up at the Rec before it became the Cherry Center.
Right.
You know about that, Michelle. I mean, but I walked into the recording studio, and the staff told me, say it's hardly used. And as much as I love athletics, I'm an artist too. And it's high time that we engage all of these young kids in the arts, because the arts builds self-esteem, communication skills, confidence, the ability to express themselves so that they won't have pent-up frustration, so somebody won't get a gun and go shoot somebody. You know, it gives you the opportunity to write, to record, to film, to do makeup, and all of those skill sets. And with Orlando right there, it builds a workforce that we can take advantage of and we can continuously develop. And I just have done it before with So You Want to Be a Star. When I wrote that with Harry Burney, you know, I've done that with Volusia County Schools. And I just think it's high time that we build something for all of our kids now. That's why we.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, if I'm in order, I will move that the Midtown Redevelopment Board recommend to the City of Daytona Beach City Commissioner to fund this proposal for the projected amount.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any more discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Great job, as usual. We're under public comments. I have got two. The first one is Mr. Lewis.
130 South Franklin Street. It's interesting, when I heard Mr. Thompson talk, I said, he called my name twice. I said, he didn't know I was a Shakespearean actor many years ago. I thought that was odd. I was like, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. But soft what light brings to, anyway, we'll get to that one later. Anyway, I'm here for something else, so I think you know, but I'll talk to you about that. I thought it was a great board, great meeting this evening, Mr. Chair, and to the board members too. A couple of things I made note of in my notes that I try to unpack it in 3 minutes is that I know they were talking about Caroline Village and PPU. Well, Palmetto Park, as you remember. Remember how the Midtown lines go. Those areas are actually outside of Midtown. So just so we know, I mean, I know they're a part of the discussion because they're partners that are here, but I know a lot of that property that's there in that Loomis area, that's actually outside of the Midtown area. So I know those things are part of it, but it's not in the actual boundaries of where the city lines are, where Midtown is at. That was one thing. The other thing, too, is I think I heard earlier when someone was talking how to quantify or at least qualify the statements as far as like the home ownership and entrepreneur. It's like every single one of the points that the board members talked about is in one of the goals. It really is. I mean, number 8 actually says increase the percentage of home ownership and business ownership. So it's like a lot of that stuff falls under that. So it's good that a lot of the, on your needs plan, Mr. Chair, it fell, if you look at it, word for word, you can get those goals and put those overarching statements right there in there. And then I wanted to leave on a good note. I think I might have mentioned this, but I didn't know, is that I wanted to say that sometimes the system really works. And I had the opportunity to see how the system really worked. Mr. Thomas had talked to me one time before at one of the other meetings. I saw him and he said, well, Pierre, they still got those grants available in case your home had some damages in one of the areas that's there. Well, my home did. And I talked to him and I put the paperwork in and I talked to Ms. Tolliver and stuff like that. And within a couple of weeks, well, the funds came in and it really assisted me in that effort. So sometimes when we're thinking about that didn't help some of the residents that live in Midtown, I wanted to leave on a good note and say the system really works. I put the paperwork in, the professionalism of Mr. Oliver, professional of Mr. Thomas, Mr. Chair, they made sure everything was taken care of.
Oh, yeah.
So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, we got new sheriffs in town, so that's why things are being done. It's just serious. All right, Mr. Brown.
Christian Brown, 912 Tamerlane Street. Unfortunately, I don't recall the item number, but you were discussing entrepreneurship training. How does an entity go about putting in a proposal to do said training? And you were also discussing internships and vocational opportunities.
Yeah.
I volunteer with a nonprofit that serves all of Volusia County, and every summer we have interns. They're all high school age, 15 to 18, and we provide them with didactic training. We place them different places throughout Volusia County, and the nonprofit actually pays them to be volunteers at whatever location that they're at. So again, how would someone be able to kind of further that or be a part of that?
That's a good question.
Career Source of Volusia, especially for that age group. I work with like collegiates, and there is a possibility of some of that too. But Career Source, I know, was looking at doing some things like that. So I could put you in touch with Ms. King or some of the people.
We are currently partnered with
You
Ms.
are.
King and Career
Okay,
Source.
great.
Unfortunately, Career Source has reduced our funding, so the amount of interns we have this year has been reduced to about 23, and we were anticipating being able to work with at least 60 different youth throughout Volusia County.
About 60, okay. All right, there's some others I can recommend to you, Ms. Catherine Meager, and so I can send you some information on that. I deal again with, the collegiate portion and the consortium. Here with the other schools, it's mostly collegiate, but a lot of them now are looking for opportunities for high school students, whether it be even volunteering to that point of getting the internship. So I will definitely put you in touch with some people.
Great, thank
Yeah,
you.
so what is the age group you're looking for?
15 to 18,
Okay.
still in high school.
Still in high school.
Correct, and still living at home.
Right. And what would you need?
Well, you were mentioning that you did want to start doing so.
Right.
Our nonprofit is already in full swing doing that. However we can be of service, we would love to be able to expand that, since, as I was just explaining, we've been reduced as to how many young people we currently serve.
Well, the offer I made earlier about, you and I doing something at one of the high schools, we can go out someplace and just talk about this. Because I think that what's missing is just folk not knowing that you're out there. I really do. I think the resources are there. You have to utilize folk, and I'm not saying you do this, but you have to utilize and say, I don't care if I get I get my picture taken. I just want it done. You understand what I'm saying? And so I don't mind if I got an idea and Michelle takes credit for it, long as it gets done. I really don't. And I'm not saying you do that, but I'm saying it's hard sometimes to just kind of, I'm gonna call Lynn up and see if he knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. So if we can, I got your number. I'll call you.
Yeah, we're open to partnering.
Okay. All right.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Any more public comments? There being none, board comments. We'll start, Ms. Hardy.
Great meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Magala.
It's been productive, and it's my hope that our residents in Daytona Beach are taking some time to listen in and, be informed about what is going on in the Midtown area. We have quite a number of things coming up, and it's my hope that they will be encouraged to attend those events. We have this community meeting coming up on Thursday at Shiloh, so they can be there and get the information. And, of course, the seafood festival that is coming up on the 29th. Amen. You can go ahead and eat some seafood and then come to Island Chapel and get some information about some housing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that.
So.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Shepherd.
Of course, once again, it was a fantastic meeting. I'd just like to add that I did meet with our mayor in reference to the flooding in my neighborhood, and so there are plans to do some work on that. So hopefully, wish me luck. We can bring some good results there. So that's all I have to offer.
I
Thank you.
know if you're involved, it'll happen. Appreciate it. Mr. Thomas.
I think it was a very good meeting, particularly as it relates to us putting together a needs plan and hearing a presentation from him.
Yes.
And I think we're on to something.
Yeah. Well, we got the right board members.
And
Let's
I'll
say
tell
that.
you what, to me, hearing what she said about those slumlords,
Yes.
got it.
If that don't fire you up,
We gotta do something.
nothing will. It's just a matter of folk finding out about it. I tell people all the time I grew up with roaches, and I know when I turn the lights on, what they do.
They scatter.
They scatter. It works. So, Ms. Richardson.
Wonderful meeting. We already passed.
Yes, very informative. Very informative. Thank you, Mr. Pierre, and thank you so much to you and partnering with Mr. Al. I know he's worked with us on some things and is wonderful as well. So I applaud everyone for all they've done. Mr. Thompson, I can definitely vouch for the wonderful theatrical and arts programs that you've done through the years, not only for our students, but through the community. And I agree. I think the arts builds cognitive skills as well as, relational skills. So I think it's very important that that is introduced in the community.
Fantastic. And I've just got two things. I want to apologize to Ms. Shepherd. I've written down here the internship and the community watch project that I'm going to bring it up next month, if you don't mind, to add it to the list. So, and just be prepared to go in more depth and stuff. And I just apologize. I was just thinking about the time.
I know we were flowing.
Yeah, so it'll be discussed next month to modify the needs plan. I'll let you know. And then my final comments, like I was saying before, I do not own any Windsor ties. And I'm just telling you, come back in here with a clip on, we're gonna have a problem. I'm gonna have to teach you how to tie a bow tie. If you can tie a shoestring, you can tie a bow tie, okay? Thank you, we are adjourned.
We need a workshop on